Okay, travelers, here we are at our next event. Get to come out here and tour the School for the Blind, where Stevie Wounder actually went for a little while here. They're going to take us a tour on this campus here, and I think that's the building right over there. And so we're just waiting for our tour to start. Alright, travelers, here we are. We got a placard out in front of the old school. Michigan began educating the blind in 1859 at Flint's Michigan Asylum. In 1879, the legislature established the Michigan School for the Blind, which opened here on September 22nd, 1880, with 35 students. The next year, 5 students were its first graduates. Their first students learned by lecture demonstration, but in 1884-85, the school introduced Braille reading and writing. The first deaf-blind student was enrolled in 1887. By the 1950s, the school boasted its large enrollment, 300 children in kindergarten through grade 12. Students' art activities have included music, drama, and track. In 1961 and 1963, students won Class B state championships. And they even have an in Braille right here, so anybody that's blind can come up here and read this placard too. And there's the school. It's sad to see it in such repair. Hopefully they can save it before this happens. You can see right next door they're building buildings and stuff. And I'm sure some developer wants this property. We need to save it. It's part of history. Okay, travelers, here we are at our next event. Get to come out here and tour the School for the Blind, where Stevie Wounder actually went for a little while here. They're going to take us a tour on this campus here, and I think that's the building right over there. And so we're just waiting for our tour to start. I did the thing when I went to the museum. Remember, they talked about Stevie Wounder actually went to school here.
So did I.
And I've always wanted to get out to this place. Here we have a presentation of what the school is all about. Well, you're not, I guess it wasn't just the blind school, it was a women's college for a while too. And there he is, Stevie Wounder.
It starts with some rich history that I get excited about, and that's the story of Abigail Rogers. Passed on her bio. She started the Michigan Female College right here, right at the plot of land where the Abigail building sits. She started the Michigan Female College right here in 1855, and that institution was really, her lifelong legacy, her lifelong fight to start, to see that women get accepted and admitted into institutions of higher education. And she started her own school here with the help of James Turner. He gave her a donation of about $20,000, which is about $500,000 of money, today's money. And she started her school on the site. This 40-acre plot of land was a gift or a donation from James Turner and several others who saw that she was filling a need in the community or a need in the state, because across the state you didn't have any institutions that would accept women into classrooms or to learn in advanced subjects. So the Michigan Female College was Pride and Joy of Lansing. It was postcards from all over. They would send all over to let young ladies know that you have a school where you can continue your studies, where you can go and study, you can leave home and study, and go on to pursue education. It was right here in Lansing. This is one of the first buildings that was on the site where the Abigail is today. This building actually burned down after the school closed, and the Institute for the Odd Fellows kind of came in for a little bit of time, and then they sold the building to the state, and then it became the Michigan School for the Blind. So that's just a little bit about the transition. By 1867, she graduated 1,000 young ladies, so this was a big deal. This wasn't just a little mom and pop tutoring operation. this was an institution of higher education where ladies left, proficient and, able to work and do things in the real world that, ladies weren't typically able to do. And being that these ladies were educated and had, definitely had some self-esteem. I looked at some of the we have like some of the history of the school when it was Michigan Female College, and some of the things Abigail and Dayla Rogers, her sister, would ask the young ladies, even in their leisure time, all of their conversation had to reflect the utmost of the values and mores of the society and time. So even in your leisure time talking, you had to make sure the subject was school appropriate and it reflected the best of the values of the society. So it was no relaxing with Abigail Rogers or Delia Rogers running this school for ladies. This is one of the first shots that we have of the Michigan Female College. This is a view that if you pull it into that gate, if you pull it into your vehicle, you saw the same vantage point, but this is 150 years ago what it looked like when it was the Michigan Female College. The Michigan School for the Blind opened in 1859. It opened in Flint, Michigan as the Michigan School for the Deaf, Dumb, and Blind. That was the language at the time. Fortunately enough, we've moved to not use such language, but the school for the Michigan School for the Blind moved here. The students for the deaf, they stayed in Flint. The Michigan School for the Deaf is still in Flint. It still operates in Flint as an institution to educate hearing impaired children. And we were the School for the Blind. We closed in the 1980s, but for 100 years after the school had moved or separated with the school in Flint, they were servicing the blind students, whereas the deaf students stayed in Flint. So this is Lansing in 1890. The biggest reason I put this plat map in our presentation is so you can see the prominence of the Michigan School for Blind. The end of the Lansing city limits is the end of the campus. So that's the end of the city right there in 1890, and this is the campus. This is the Michigan School for Blind, and this is Michigan State right here. So you see three prominent plats: Michigan State, Capital, and the Michigan School for Blind. 1890. This is what that building looked like. This is what was inherited by the Institute of the Oddfellows, and they sold this to the state. This was the first school for blind students, and it went through different phases of development and construction. This is the actual postcard. I have that postcard for you all. You pass it around. And this is the backside of the building. This is pretty big. It's huge. It's very large. But you had all the operations in here. In 1880, you had 35 blind students, but by 1910, you maybe have 40 to 100. Then by 1950, you have 300 students attending the school. Edwin Bold is a Lansing prominent architect who designed the Abigail. He was born in England. He moved here in 1888, but he completed some prominent projects all over Lansing, some of which are the Lansing original City Hall and Post Office, the First Baptist Church that still stands on Ottawa and Capitol, the Ingham County Courthouse is that one Boyd building, also the Abigail and other Michigan School for Blind buildings. So this building was built in 3 phases, with this first part being built in about 1918. The most northern part was built in about 1920, and the most south part was built in about 1922. So it was built in different phases, but this was everything for about 30 years. The library was in there, the gym was in there. It was a smaller gym in the high school, but by 1950 the campus couldn't operate in this small building anymore. So that's when you see the campus kind of sprawl out onto all this land that we use today. This is the architect. That's his write-up from when he passed away in the State Journal. It was known as one of the finest architects to pick up a pen in Michigan. So just so you know, by 1960, these students were participating in all kinds of activities. They won 2 wrestling state titles, 1960, 1962, open with 35 students, mostly from Flint. But by 1950, you have 300 students or more living on campus, receiving blind student education. And some of the students lived here, some of the students lived in the community and were just day students, but most of the students were full-time, residential students. This is the gym. So you see the old picture of the gym, and we got a new picture to show you just how the gym has been the same, but you see a lot of the trees have grown up on it. But this was a state-of-the-art, gym when it was built for these students. And I say that because in the 1920s, most of the students were in the gym. They were in this gym. They were in this gym. I passed that one around. That was the gym. That's what the gym looked like until this one was built. So if you juxtapose that gym with this facility, and I just want you all to know this one has a bowling alley in it. This one has a swimming pool in it. This one has roller skating upstairs. Yes. What gym would you rather participate in? And so in 30 years, you see the use of technology and the use of different means of design and construction, the gym had a lot more amenities in it. Some of the amenities that I speak of are the adaptive technologies that the kids had for them to participate in activities, such as the basketball hoops, there's speakers in the gym, there's cables for the students to run track. The library had one of the largest volumes of braille materials and large print books. And it also had a large supply of life-size and large-size replicas for students to feel and kind of gauge how things look based on feeling. Now it's the Pine Street Head Start. This is Ann Manning and J.J. Jackson. This was Stevie's, one of his teachers. She actually tutored him and went on the road with him several times to tutor him. And that's J.J. Jackson, one of Stevie's best friends, who was a valedictorian the year they graduated. And we have a Stevie Wonder birthday party every year. JJ is our main connection to Stevie. He's got us, he's had Stevie call in and sing to our kids over the phone. He's brought back signed memorabilia. He's usually one of our keynote speakers for that program. So that's a picture of him and his wife last year. This is Stevie on campus. And then also, this is a little bit about Stevie. You all know he was blind. He went here, he moved here from Saginaw, did most of his formative education here, and then graduated. By the time he graduated, he was already a recording artist, you know, already known around the world at that point. And this is the flyer we do for the social. I invite you every year we do it. It's the third Thursday in May. It's open to the public. Come out, get some ice cream. We have some former students, former staff members come out, share stories. And then we usually just play Stevie Wonder music and have a good time. That kind of concludes my presentation for you. This was this year's flyer, and we're going to start the walking tour. Did anybody have any questions about the presentation?
What happened to the blind students when this closed?
When it's closed, they were sent back to their regular schools. And we actually had 2 students with us in our last touring group, and they spoke a little bit about that experience. And one of them, I'll quote, for saying it was a mess, because you have this place that's intended and designed, you know, to not only educate, but to house blind students. And then you send them back to a regular school district. A presentation that we'll go through with you with it afterwards, but just some of the things that we covered. In 1855, Abigail Rogers started the Michigan Female College right at the Abigail building. It was a smaller structure, but it was postcards for that place that went all over the nation. And by 1867, she graduated about 1,000 young ladies. And unfortunately, Abigail Rogers died in 1868. But the following year, in the same year she died, Michigan State started accepting women into their university. And the following year, you know, as they always do, U of M, catching them home. 1 year later, they started accepting women at their university. And that's why they always in second place with everything. But her life is definitely a testament to her fight to see that women get admitted into higher education. And she started the first Michigan Female College right here in Lansing, right where the Abigail is today. So she's deserving of a statue, some type of commemorance to her legacy and her life, because, you know, it's a lot of young ladies going to Michigan State and U of M, but they really don't know how Abigail Rogers and this place right here that we stand on paved the way and had a lot to do with them being able to go to those places. Fast forward, after the Michigan School for the Michigan Female College kind of dies out when Abigail Rogers dies, unfortunately, she didn't really pass the torch to anybody. The school kind of went under. The Institute for the Odd Fellows purchased most of the property. They owned it for several years, and then they sold it to the state in 1880, and that's when the school became the Michigan School for Blind. And you had the students from Flint, Michigan. They moved up here, about 20 of them, and you had students from all over come over, and they started the history for the Michigan School for Blind in 1880. 107 years of this school. Past the centennial point, and then the school closed down. Students, the political and educational mores of the time was that students need to go back to their districts, and they could provide extra services for students to be kind of immersed in regular ed classrooms, but just with some added services. But there are great drawbacks because we have this institution that's designed specifically for students who are blind, who face similar challenges. Yeah, and it's organic to their needs, and I'm sure, you know, it's things that happen on this campus that a regular school couldn't account for with just extra funding. So I think that was a big drawback. But nonetheless, we do have a rich history in Lansing. I'm excited that you all have come. For those who do want to catch the presentation, when we finish up the tour, we'll take you in the office and do it. But we're going to start our walking tour. So if you all would walk with me, we'll start up here. This building was always K-6 or K-8 education. But the building to the left or to the right of this building was the health Currently, all of the rooms have been converted. We run offices out of most of the space. Thank you very much. Keep the lounge out of the space. Basic service when it comes to health and physical needs. Now, when you first, for those who had the pleasure of joining us for the presentation, I showed you a view of the Michigan Female College. I said it's the same vantage point you'll see when you pull in 150 years ago. That view is going to be approaching us shortly. When we get to this corner, you'll look left, and I have the same picture, the same vantage point maybe 160 years ago when it was the Michigan Female College. Currently, you're going to see the Abigail building, named after Abigail Rogers, the founder and the woman who started the Michigan Female College right here in 1855. So if you can stop and take this in. When we get in, I'll show you what this looked like 150 years ago before this structure was here and we had the Michigan Female College here on campus. And it was a pioneering, groundbreaking institution educating young ladies in Michigan when everybody else thought it wasn't the best thing to do. And 100 years later, you know, people are catching up with Michigan because we were doing it first right here, right where we're standing with Abigail Rogers. All right, we're going to keep going. Now, if you look on the campus, throughout the sidewalks for the whole campus, there's ridges in the sidewalks to keep the students on campus, to let them know where they're going on campus and to make sure that they stay on campus. That's just one piece of adaptive technology that we still have with us. Yes, on the highway too when you fall asleep. Yeah. Not saying I fall asleep, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Why not run on the ground?
No, but sometimes you turn too tight and you get
There
it.
you go. On the person in front of you.
69 or 72.
And I just hear we have some students who are here. And please feel free to share. Just cut me off. Raise your hand. Let us know, please. Please, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, the elementary school was 1 through 6.
1 through 6.
And this one was 7 through 12.
7 through 12. Awesome. Now, Stevie, we have a picture of Stevie Wounder right outside of the high school building, which was 7 and 12. And it was the picture I showed you of him sitting with the young lady. He was filling the floor earlier.
Oh, yeah, that's in the school.
Okay.
That's not here on campus.
The one where he's filling the book?
Yeah, that's not here on campus.
Okay. I'm gonna look, because I know it's a pavilion that wrapped around this building at some point.
Around what building?
Around the high school building.
Oh, I didn't know. There never was one that I knew.
Okay, on the front side, it was. I'll show you. I'll see. I'll double check that one. But this was the library right here, straight ahead. That was library. They had a large collection of braille volumes as well as large print textbooks. Also, if you step over, you see what the superintendent's house, the brick house. That was the superintendent's house. That was built earlier with the campus before 1950. That was for the superintendent to be ready and available and on site. The Abigail House, most of the operation for a long time until they built some of the newer buildings on campus, like the small gym in the Abigail became obsolete, I'm sure, in the 1950s and 60s when they saw the new gym be constructed over on the west part of the campus. The Abigail is all we have that's named after our friend Abigail Rogers. We want to see a statue or something that commemorates her legacy in life. But this is all we have, and currently they have 3 projects underway. That first one is supposed to be a low-income housing.
That's where the music building used to be, Lions Hall. Used to be there.
And they tore that down last year, and they're going to put up the low-income housing. Yeah. And then this one is supposed to be senior living. And then this high school building is to be it's market rate housing with commercial initiatives on the first 2 floors.
Are they tearing down the Abigail or are they going to renovate it?
They're going to renovate it.
Yeah, renovate it.
That's great. Keep that alive, you know. It's sad when they tear down history, you know.
Right, and they do it. They do it. Do we have any questions or anything?
So you say this is going to be like an old folks home? You said they turned it into?
Senior living. I believe it'll be independent senior living.
I'd make a good nursing home. Because of the room. That's a good idea.
Hey, whatever they do, they just need to keep it up.
Yeah.
Exactly. Keep this building.
I think it's social time.
They don't build buildings like this anymore, you know?
I think they'll be
It's sad to see them in such a state of decay. I mean,
Yeah, that's wrong.
somebody needs to take them and give them some love,
Yeah.
restore them.
Yeah, we give away so many pilots for these new colorful
Excuse
things.
me. So who currently owns these?
TWG. The Whitsitt Group out of Indianapolis.
Okay, so it's not the
It's not even a mission.
No, not the city, not the land bank. The land bank currently owns the superintendent's house, and there's a big hearing because they're trying to sell it to a men's residential rehab center. And it's like 40 feet from a preschool, so it's been a big community hearing because didn't nobody let the preschool know or anything, so it'll be a hearing for that on Tuesday.
I think it's turn the dining room down for stories.
Yeah, I'll be at the hearing with an objection, so if you all want
So
to hear it, I'll
this
be there.
school is the only one then that's separately owned.
So you have several different entities owned and pretty much with the fence line. This is owned by TWG as well as that new project that you see that just went up. This is also owned by TWG. The rest of it is owned by the land bank. So the library and the superintendent's house is owned by the land bank. The land bank they own about half of this lot. So if you go to our track, we own half of the track. So I hope they don't try to put a development on half the track, you know, so we have to run like that. But anyway, they own half of the track and going back northwest that way. So we own like right up the middle.
Looking back there and not seeing cottages.
Yeah, usually cottages along the perimeter. And it was housing for the 300 plus students they had here. Where did you live?
I live in Chippewa Cottage and Blair Cottage. I was a basement, so I just came during the day and ate lunch.
So there used to be cottages out here for
Were the other
the
students
blind
jealous
students.
of some of the stuff you all had here, like the new gym, like students who went to regular schools?
I don't know.
Okay. You never heard about it?
No, I never heard of it.
Okay.
I was gonna say, what is it?
I could just only imagine.
Is that one?
See, here's those grooves they talk about for the blind students, so they don't get lost. Kind of reminds you of that for the highways. How they got their rumble strips now.
She was surprised to find out that Stevie Wounder is still alive. The who? No, who were the lines from?
I used to shoot basketball too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of
With the audio will go
We're actually
locator.
not the head that way now. I don't know if they're going to be drive down there from
Really?
to the movie at 3.
Now, how did you all set those pins? I heard you set those pins with
There's a
hands.
number and the machine that did it.
Okay, so the machine would tell you what numbers
See,
to
these
reset.
ladies here,
No.
they actually went to this school.
Fill 'em?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, because you could tell as you set the pins in the setter, you know, and then you put them in the wrong one. What other one pin they fall out? Yeah, we're not doing all over. Because usually when blind people go, they'll say you have the 1, 2, 6 pin after whatever. That's how we know all the pins and stuff. Because we're on a blind bowling league ourselves right now. At the outer limits.
It'd be nice if they turned this into a big memorial park.
Now, did you all run track
Yeah.
with these cables?
People can come out here and enjoy this beautiful land
Cables a few times.
instead of telling them to tear it all down and develop it.
I ran longer.
So the cables are only for the dash.
Yeah.
They even had little track meets out here.
They had tandem bikes too.
Now, also on the track, you see the poles that would connect cables for that 100-meter dash for the students to stay in their lanes. And then for the distance runners, they would just run. And we have some ladies who ran track here.
Yeah, and the blind would, if we did a mile, there was a tandem mile, the blind would hold on to the person beside it and run the mile. And then we'd add, for the blind, they had a 600-yard dash. They'd run back and forth on the cables. And the ring, the cables had a ring on, and they held onto the ring. And there was, before the poles, there was a bump or something on the wire, so you knew you were coming to the end. And then someone would say, turn, and the coach would tell you. Yeah. And then you run back the other way.
Oh, wow.
There was never no accident or nothing.
Kind of surreal being back here after all these years, though.
Yes.
Yeah. We're going to...
This used to be my favorite building.
Really?
I practically lived here.
So, you would come over here like in your extra time?
Yeah.
This was the hangout kind of thing?
Yeah. We had recreation every day. Used to be.
Used to be, yeah.
Oh, not so much.
Oh, wow.
So which way would you bowl?
There were 3 lanes.
Going which way?
Well, they're right. The pins were down there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we
Then the
would,
benches were here.
we would go like that.
Yeah, and then,
So this used to be a bowling alley.
yep.
Wow.
And the shoes got used to be back again. Then there used to be a mat in the bowl.
Blind kids used to come in here, play
Oh, that used to
and
be a
bowl.
mat. Meal.
So this was a bowling alley. All the students had 3 lanes, and we have some bowlers who actually participated in bowling down here. And they would bowl from this direction, from where I am, to the wall where she's taking a picture. The exercise room was for wrestling. Do you all remember anything about the wrestling room?
Yeah, it's a mat room, yep.
Okay, that room, same thing. The
Yeah,
mats are a
wrestling
lot harder
exercise.
now. They're a lot harder now. But we cleaned out that room. It was storage for some time. We put new lights in it, so we do some tutoring in the room. And they actually won 2 state titles in wrestling in 1960 and 1962.
I would have to say, I coached track here, 67, 69, around 70, I'm trying to think. And for track, we competed with 10 other state schools, because we couldn't do track with local. So it tends, once a year we get together at a school. It could be Iowa had a school, they have Ohio State School for the Blind will remember a lot of time they came here. So the big year I was here coaching, at the 10 state thing, we had one runner that became, he was a national champion on the 600.
Oh, wow.
And we also, that year, not because I was coaching, but we had quite a group of guys. Some of them are still around. My shot putter and some of the others are still operating. And we won the 10-state tournament. We beat Illinois, which was heavy Chicago. So that was a real kind of a dream for me, just my second year of coaching. Oh, Michigan finally won. Michigan finally won. It was fun though. We had some of those runners are still around too.
Good.
What's your name?
What was your name?
Ron Wilcox.
Oh, Mr. Wilcox.
Yes, you remember me?
Yeah, I didn't know you trained in
Yeah, I did that. I became the first, I took 67, I took the job here as the first orientation mobility specialist.
Yeah.
At the school, they said, well, you gotta open the school, we gotta get them out of here, you know?
Yeah.
So we developed a system that allowed, after being evaluated and training, that they were allowed to leave campus with permission with special slips.
Yeah.
That they had passed different tests, and so they could, particularly the ones that are severely impaired, visually wise, but there were others were checked out the others too that had vision. A lot of students had remaining vision, various kinds. So they got checked out. We had some good doctors that were really good. So anyway, that was a great time to
That's
see.
cool.
To see.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, it takes me back home to where I started.
And honestly, like, I love you all for coming out to be a touristy town, but it's so much more than a day. Like, we try to do a Stevie Wonder birthday party in May, but it's important that we let people know we not only, you know, appreciate these spaces, but these spaces still live. You know, these spaces still live. So thank you. We're gonna go up to the gym. You all right? We're gonna go up to the gym where
Now, here's the thing, like, Stevie Wonder was good too at it. The echolocation, you go to a lot of the students, and the building for those in that building, you hear the sounds of the stage, and then overall sound echoes off the sidewall. Especially the walls there, the bleachers were little. And then they had speakers in here. You probably see one there. These 4 speakers really tuned to it. And then they would, you know, there was other people too, but you could really go easy. Didn't matter how much rhythm you had.
They used to skate around like crazy. You'd think that a lot of people might run into the wall or something, but they were fast.
I had some students that, because I had to teach them how to use echolocation, and people varied in that ability. I had a student that could, and Stevie Wonder was pretty good too. He could tell when a wall, just normal walking, a little bit of sound from the feet, but not excess. He could tell a wall if it went farther away or closer within an inch or so. Now, not everybody could do that, but for me to get trained, I had to spend about 60 hours under the blindfold, using canes and traveling over the time in actually in Chicago. That's where I did my training. But anyway, so I got a chance to see what it's like, what the audio sounds are and everything. So I got a wife where I get to keep training this day. She's good though. She did have a dog. The dog died. But in order to get a dog, they recommend it's much better if you have a lot of cane training and a lot of orientation things at corners and things, so you're aware, because you have to lead the dog. You have to train.
Did they have service animals on campus for the students at any time?
No.
Never?
They changed it before I left after 13 years. They changed it so the students could be 18 or over, but they had to be evaluated by a mobility specialist, support me, and because they didn't want to just take anybody.
I heard that leader dog from Lions just started accepting high school students.
Yep.
That's his lowest.
That's the lowest.
Leader dog is wonderful. They exploded.
Because they have to have some maturity.
They come from all over the world to go there. Spain.
Yeah, our students are looking in the pool. Be careful, don't go in. Please don't go in, just take a look. But it was the pool, and I guess they remember it very well.
I did my first
The pool.
Oh, really?
When I did, the coach was actually amazing because I was afraid to do it, and I was able to do the first, swimming on my back. Wow. And Coach Gallagher was really proud. A lot of good memories.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're all right. We're all excited to see all this.
Yeah, definitely storage.
It's a junkyard.
Wow, that's their swimming pool. All storage right now.
Up there, but the switches are still on the wall. And you can see them and say audio.
The Walter French pool, they put a floor over the top of it, and they used it for gymnastics lessons.
That's disgusting.
Oh, wow.
Cool, they gave me special permission to come back here and get closer pictures of the Abigail. Really cool about this. This best to ask permission. It's a construction area. There's construction going backside. They're trying to remodel it so it can be like an elderly old folks home. I hope they do. This is a beautiful building and it needs to be saved. It's part of history. They just don't make structures like this too much anymore. Very beautiful place. And it's historical. And like I said, I agree with them. They need to have statues out here. Like a statue of Abigail, the woman that started the women's college, and possibly a statue of Stevie Wonder. I mean, because he went here. And he even calls here. They said they have his birthday party here every year. And he even calls up here because he remembers the school. And what they did to him. Like I said, it would be cool if they could do an actual festival, you know, in town. Or maybe even get Stevie Wonder to come here. I said, I just hope they save this building. I know it's starting to run down a little bit, but with a little bit of hard work, it can be saved. It needs to be saved. That was great. You know, big information. I never knew there was a women's college here. And how they do a birthday party for Stevie Wonder every year. Lived here all my life, never knew that. But that's cool. But you know, it'd be cool if they could increase that birthday party and make it a thing right here in town, big festival. I bet you a lot of people would love it. Stevie Wonder's a great man, great musician. I love his work. On to our next event.